In this video, I'm going to show you how you can come up with a new app idea using an amazing tool that visualizes all your fragmented thoughts as a graph, shows you how they're all related to one another so you can quickly see how they connect, and that enables you to find ideas that are both unique but also relevant to your interests. So I'm going to show you how it works, and we will be using it with VSCode, which is a software development environment, together with GitHub Copilot, which is an AI chatbot for software development, so that you can see how to actually take it from generating an idea to actually building something in one go. So if you're interested, keep watching and I will demonstrate how it works step by step. It will be especially interesting for visual thinkers because I will also show you how you can use this graph to generate really interesting ideas. And a few words about myself. I'm Dimitri, I'm the developer of this app. It's called InfraNodus. I've been working on it for the last 10 years, and on this channel I just like to share my insights about AI and technology. So if you're interested and if you want to support it, please subscribe so that this video gets recommended to other people interested in similar content. So let's jump in. First, I will show you how this whole thing works, and then in the end of the video I'm going to show you how you can set it up and install it so that you can actually try it yourself with your own ideas. First of all, as my vault of ideas, I'm actually using my Obsidian vault, because if you have Obsidian, which is a note-taking app, it works with local folders, so you can open that same local folder inside your VS Code environment. And by the way, if you don't like VS Code, you can also use Windsurf AI or Cursor, which are two very popular software development IDEs. But basically you open this vault and then you have all your ideas. And for example, me, I have a folder with all my recent business ideas in one place, right? So the first thing that I'm going to do, if I want to start working on something and if I actually want to decide what I should be working on, I'm going to visualize all of these ideas as a graph. And to do that, I right click on that folder and then I click InfraNodus graph, visualize this graph. So it's going to visualize that folder that I selected. And what InfraNodus does is that it takes all the files from this folder, it analyzes the text inside, it shows the concepts as the nodes in the graph and co-occurrences as the connections, so that you can quickly see what are the recurrent patterns of thoughts that you had when you were writing down all those notes. As you can see, I have around 20 of them here. So my first step is just to kind of jump back in and have a general overview of what I was actually thinking about when I was thinking of all these different business ideas and app ideas. So as you can see here, for instance, there's quite a strong path between workflows and steps. So I remember I was thinking about like an app to kind of share workflows, and then another one was on creating some page. So maybe this is more about landing pages, and this is about people and kind of time management and so on. So that already can give me really nice entrance points and reminders into my thinking process. But what's great is that not only I can kind of look at the graph, I can also use the graph analysis inside to see what are the most important parts. So first of all, InfraNodus already visualizes the most important ideas as bigger on the graph. So this is why they will attract more attention at the beginning, and they're great points of entry into your discourse. So for example, if I want to see what I was writing about workflows and steps, I can click on workflow and steps, and then I go into concepts, then I click locate, and InfraNodus does search that looks for the statements inside this folder which contain both workflows and steps. So I can quickly jump to the parts where I was talking about workflows and steps. And I can see, for example, here I had one business ideas and workflows, another one on accounting. So that could be also interesting, how that same idea could be applied in the field of accounting. But if I click here on context, it's going to show me all the statements that have both workflow and steps. And as you can see, actually, the search uses regex expressions. So here it's the OR expression, and if I click on locate, it looks for workflow and then it looks for steps. So it's pretty neat way to also navigate inside your thoughts and to find the most relevant stuff, right? If I want to see, for example, what I was writing about market and business, I click on those two again, click locate, and then I see the two statements where I was writing about market and business in the same context. So this is a great way to jump in, and this is what I like to do first, usually with the graph, to kind of see those most influential ideas and then jump into them. If you want to know the principle behind how those influential ideas are calculated, this is some graph science, and we have information about it on our support portal. I will link in the description to this video so you can read more about how that works. But then let's say you want to kind of operate on a higher level. So you don't want to go into concepts, but you want to see what the general topics are. So this is also possible. You kind of click here on topics, and then you see the main topics inside. So for example, here I can see that there's one on content visualization. It's quite a big topic for me. Data engagement, crypto workflow, and then financial commitment, project optimization, market analysis. So that gives me a general idea of what I was thinking about, right? It reminds me that it's definitely strong on visualization because I like this stuff. Then there is something about data, financial commitments, and workflow. So that reminds me how I had this idea to make some kind of blockchain where you could trace commitments and where you could also reward each other for fulfilling commitments. So that's great because it's already reminding me what I was thinking about. And then some stuff about market analysis, project optimization, and so on. If I want to jump into one of those topics and explore what I was talking about when I was thinking about them, I can click, for example, on one of those topics and use that same locate button to do this really precise search to find the most relevant statement that relates to this topic. So for example, here I see that it was in the file called support network. So that already reminds me the name of the idea I was thinking about. And here it's talking about kind of like what I was saying about this, how the person needs to make a financial commitment to fulfilling his goals. And that could all be done on blockchain. So that would be one approach. Another one is, for example, content visualization. If I click on locate, it finds a completely different statement from a completely different file, which is more about a graph that would show what people are thinking about when they search for a certain topic. So that already, as you can see, reminds me all my different ideas and helps me see, is there any connection between them? Because I already have to start thinking in terms of relations. And by the way, what I can do is to use the built-in AI module. And this is pretty interesting because check this out. If you click on a summary, it's going to copy all those most relevant statements and the underlying graph structure. And then you can feed it into your favorite AI module. For example, here I'm going to use GitHub Copilot. I'm just going to paste what was copied here. And by the way, when I do that, it shows me the message that it was copied, so I understand what's going on. And then I can use it to enhance my prompts and to generate some ideas based on that. So for example, here, when I ask it to generate a summary, it says the content across the files describes various ideas and projects. And here it kind of gives me like AI generated summary. And basically it's quite similar, but it's a more text-like form. So that can be interesting. Let's say if I would like to kind of develop it into something more coherent, I could say summarize it in one sentence. So then I'm going to sort of prompt it to really condense everything and see if there's like one idea that I could generate that would encompass all of those different topics that I identified here. And here it says that it describes various AI-based tools and automation projects based on optimizing workflows, enhancing customer support, visualizing data, and improving accountability and productivity. So I can see already from here that this idea of kind of optimizing workflows, accountability, and productivity is something that probably I should focus on because I was writing about this the most, right? So I can generate it that way, or what I can also do is, for example, now that I know that I'm interested in workflows and financial commitments, I can just select these two topics and then generate a prompt. So I'm going to click on idea, then it's going to generate a prompt that will ask the AI, any AI that you use, GitHub Copilot, or if you're using Windsurf Cascade, to generate a business idea. So here it says, create a collaborative platform where users can share and follow detailed workflows to achieve specific goals, integrating a gamified accountability system. I mean, this is actually great because it's exactly what I was thinking about, but it's formulated in such a concise way from all the fragmented ideas I had that I probably want to save it somewhere. So in fact, there is unfortunately no way to copy it manually here by just clicking button, but I would probably select this part and add it into my to-do list here because that's pretty good. Like that's something that I can already use, and I'm going to actually save it into my to-do list. So this is how I would do this. I would generate ideas and then save them into that very vault. So then I can kind of run through them and see if there is anything that I want to focus on and that I want to generate an app from. So this I would do in a few iterations. I would either select the topics that I find most relevant, or I would ask the AI to kind of generate a summary for me. What you can also do, and that's like a really powerful feature of InfraNodus, is that you can go into gaps and see what are the topics that you didn't connect yet. So this is a different approach. You're looking at your whole discourse and you're asking the system, what are the parts of the discourse that are not yet well connected? Because usually opportunity lies in between those topics that you didn't connect yet. Because let's say here I thought about financial commitment, I thought about media interaction, but I didn't think about them in the same context. So maybe there's like a eureka moment because I want to surprise myself. Maybe the ideas I have are also quite generic in a sense, right? And if I want to make them less generic, this is the way to kind of do it, to look for the gaps and then to generate some interesting ideas and questions. And here inside InfraNodus, you have a button called question that generates a prompt with the underlying graph structure that would link those two topics, take those two statements also that it shows you here, and then you can paste it here. I will actually make new chat, so I clean this context a little bit, and then it will generate an interesting question for me. So for example here, how can the proposed blockchain-based scheduling system ensure accountability and timely updates through chat while allowing users to allocate money to different profiles based on their performance? So that's actually interesting because it relates to this social network media kit app I was thinking about. So I will even write here media kit, and kind of like it's actually proposing me to think of the connection between this blockchain accountability system I was thinking about and this social media kit. And here it's telling me that I could maybe use that to also allocate some resources to different profiles based on performance. So people could compete on that platform for attention and use some kind of blockchain system to divert funds to the people who are attracting more attention at the moment, or if you're not just into attracting attention, maybe attracting attention to certain causes that you believe in. So I will even write this, attracting attention to certain causes I believe in and rewarding this using the blockchain accountability app. All right, so this is how I would also generate an idea with AI and then augment it with my own thoughts. So these are the three approaches: looking into the graph, clicking on the nodes, finding the parts of the text that you're talking about, a certain topic you like, and then reading through that, maybe developing an idea one way, then selecting some of them. So for example here, select idea, workflow, and step, and maybe even something I didn't connect it with yet, like combination and maybe search, and let's say also something like market, right? So I can select all of those stuff at the same time, generate a question, feed it back to AI and generate a response. And by the way, here I'm using another app. It's like another AI chatbot that you can use inside VS Code called Continue. And here I'm using it with my local model. So you don't need to use it with a commercial model. You can also install a local model on your computer. I'm using Ollama, which you just download and launch, and then it works. Okay, so the next step is, if we want to develop an app from this idea, we take this idea, then go to GitHub Copilot or any environment of your choice. For example, I like to actually use Windsurf AI because it will generate the project structure for you automatically. So you can copy and paste it into a cascade and kind of like tell it which stack you want to use. So for example, I can say using React stack, create this app here, right? And then it's just going to do the job for me. If you're a bit more professional, you would do first in the chat mode and ask it to tell you, tell me the steps to create a React stack for this app, right? So you kind of first ask it to tell you what it's going to do, and only then you ask it to create it. Here, if you use GitHub Copilot, I would do the same. I would also switch to Claude 3.5 model because it's a bit better for development. And I would always ask it to give me the steps that it's going to do in order to create stuff. GitHub Copilot has a tendency to actually create workspace. So if it creates a workspace for you, you would have to then rerun it a few times because obviously it would give some errors on the first run. So you would kind of need to go in a few iterations. But it can be pretty cool for creating the general structure. Here, the advantage in Windsurf is that it actually tells you what it's going to do, the stack that it's going to use, the styling. You can give it some modifications and then have it come up with the final result. You can also use tools like Vercel. So for example, here I have Vercel. So you can give it an instruction here, and it's quite good for generating interfaces. Or you can also use a tool that's called Bolt New, where you can also copy and paste your request, and it's going to generate an interface for you. And here it's a little bit better because you see the interface directly, so you can fix it. You don't need to install the dependencies. Once you like the interface, you can export the project, and then add it into your folder here, and then continue working on it, integrating the ideas that you have into the tool. So that would be all these different ways of approaching actually building an app from this idea. And eventually what I would also recommend is once you generate an app idea based on that, it's kind of better to separate this folder from the rest of your vault and then to only work with that vault and use it as some sort of documentation for ideas. You know, use the graph to kind of navigate between them, but then in fact when you have the actual code, it would only have this as the context, so it would be a little bit more precise and it would not get lost in all the different other ideas you have in your vault. One last thing I want to show you is that as we're using a software development environment for generating those ideas, we also use version control, Git. So that means that whatever I added into this vault, like in this case, for instance, a new workspace, new code, I can actually make sure that this doesn't get included with my Obsidian vault. So I always have this control of separating what's going to be committed to the next version. But another cool thing is that, let's say I made some changes on those files, right? So as you can see here, they're highlighted with green, the stuff that I added, when with blue, the stuff that I changed and modified. So I always can keep track of what changed, and then I can right click and say, okay, visualize only the diff, so only the stuff that I added or modified as a graph. And that helps me track what it is that I added recently from the most recent commit. So for example, here I can see that I was much more focused on workflows in my most recent commit. And on these ideas of people, money, and kind of supporting each other and making commitments. So workflows and commitments is something more recent. And that's also like a great way to navigate in your ideas, but adding this temporal aspect that you can actually see what are the stuff that you were thinking about most recently. And then, like I showed before, if you like to see where you mentioned some ideas, you just select them and then go to locate. Then it shows you the exact statement you see here, modified. So I just added it, and it shows you the exact statement where you were talking about this idea. So this is how the whole thing works. You can try out this extension on InfraNodus.com, download it there. I will also leave a link to the VS Code extension and Windsurf extension in the description to this video. You will need an InfraNodus account to use it. And once you install it, you can add it into your sidebar. So I'm going to show you now how to do that technically. Let's say if I didn't have this extension, so I'm just going to show you from zero. I have the extension here. I'm going to uninstall it, restart, so I don't have the extension anymore. So all I have to do is to go into extensions in VS Code or in Windsurf. It exists in both environments, and then I click InfraNodus, install, and then it's going to get installed, and usually you will have an icon appearing here on the right. And then what you do is to just choose some folder or a file. You can also do it on a file and ask it to be visualized as a graph. If it doesn't work on the first time, then all you do is quit VS Code and then start it again. And let's try to visualize. Yes, so now it's going to work. And in case it asks you for a code, then you click here and then you add your API key here from InfraNodus API. So this is how you would install it. And how I like to usually organize my workspace is that I like having my InfraNodus on the right, but the GitHub Copilot, I can actually move it here. As you can see, when you drag it, you can move it here. So for example, I can have Copilot chats and Copilot edits directly in this window. And I kind of find it more comfortable because then I have access to my files. I have the text files here, and then I can chat there. So I can have it all at the same place. But of course, you can also have your Copilot edits back here, and then you can switch between the graph and the Copilot if you prefer. So this is how it could be set up. I hope you find it interesting. Please let me know what you think about this workflow. It's an experimental one, so I'm curious about your opinion. And hopefully I'm going to be able to show you an app soon that I developed using this workflow. So maybe in some of the next videos I'm going to showcase it as well. Thank you and have a great day.